Hey guys, so today I'm going to be doing a reading of the new expanded Nasus lore. Um, this one just came out today, so I'm going to go ahead and read this, and then I will go on to Renekton after this, who was also just released today. So this is Nasus, the Curator of the Sands. What was fallen will be great again. Nasus is an imposing, jackal-headed, ascended being from ancient Shurima, a heroic figure regarded as a demigod by the people of the desert. Fiercely intelligent, he was the guardian of knowledge and peerless strategist whose wisdom guided the ancient empire of Shurima into greatness for many centuries. After the fall of the empire, he went into self-imposed exile, becoming more than a legend. Now that the ancient city of Shurima has risen once more, he has returned, determined to ensure it never falls again. Nasus's brilliance was recognized from a young age, long before he was chosen to join the ranks of the Ascended. A ferocious scholar, he read, memorized, and critiqued the greatest works of history, philosophy, and rhetoric within the Library of the Sun before he'd seen 10 summers. His passion for reading and critical thinking were not passed down to his younger brother Renekton, who was quickly bored and spent his time fighting with the other local children. The brothers were close, and Nasus kept a protective eye over his younger brother, helping to ensure that he didn't get into too much trouble. However, it wasn't long before Nasus was welcomed into the exclusive Collegium of the Sun, leaving home to take up his place in this prestigious academy. While the pursuit of knowledge would always be his passion, Nasus's grasp on military strategy and logistics ensured he became the youngest general in Shuriman history. While he was a competent soldier, his genius lay not in fighting battles, but in planning them. His strategic foresight became legendary. In war, he was always a dozen moves ahead of the enemy, able to predict their movement and reactions, as well as pinpoint the exact moment to push the attack or pull back. A deeply empathetic man who took his responsibilities incredibly seriously, he always ensured his soldiers were well provisioned, paid on time, and treated fairly. Every loss of life pained him deeply, and he often refused to rest as he planned and replanned his troop movements and battle dispositions until they were perfect. He was loved and respected by all who served in his legions, and he guided the armies of Shurima to countless victories. His brother Renekton often served on the front lines of these wars, and the two of them quickly narred on the aurora of invincibility. Despite the acclaim Nasus won, he did not enjoy war, though he understood its importance, for now at least, in ensuring the continued progress of the Empire. He firmly believed his greatest contribution to Shurima was in knowledge that he gathered for future generations. At Nasus's urging, all books, scrolls, teachings, and histories of cultures he defeated were preserved in great libraries and repositories throughout the Empire, the greatest of which bore his name. His hunger for knowledge was not for selfish reasons, but to share the wisdom with all of Shurima, to enhance understanding of the world and bring enlightenment to the Empire. After decades of dutiful service, Nasus was cruelly struck down by a terrible wasting sickness. Some say he encountered a Mumu, a long-dead child king, said to bear a terrible curse. Others believed he was laid low by the evil magics of the Ithacan cult leader. Whatever the truth, the Empire's own physician declared with a heavy heart that Nasus was incurable and would be dead within a week. The people of Shurima went into mourning, for Nasus was its brightest star and beloved by all. The Emperor himself begged the priesthood for an inaugurate. After a day and night of communing with the divine, the priest declared that it was the will of the sun god that Nasus be blessed with the ascension ritual. Renekton, now a great war leader, raced back to the capital to be with his brother. The terrible sickness had advanced dramatically, and Nasus was little was little more than a skeleton, his flesh wasted away and his bones were fragile as glass. So weak was he that the golden light from the sun disk streamed into the ascension dais, and Nasus was unable to climb the final stair to step into the light. Renekton's love for his brother was stronger than any sense of self-preservation, and he nobly bore Nasus into the dais. Ignoring his brother's protests, he willingly accepted oblivion in order to save Nasus. However, Renekton was not destroyed as expected. When the light faded, two ascended beings stood before Shurima. Both brothers had been deemed worthy, and the Emperor himself dropped to his knees to give thanks to the Divine. Nasus was now a towering jackal-headed being of great strength. His eyes glittered with fierce intelligence, while Renekton had been transformed into a heavily muscled behemoth bearing the likeness of a crocodile. They took their place alongside the other rare ascended beings of Shurima and became its protectors. While Renekton had always been a great warrior, he was now virtually unstoppable. Nasus, too, had been gifted with powers far beyond understanding of mortal men. The greatest boon of his ascension, his newly extended longevity, which allowed him countless lifetimes to spend in study and contemplation, would, after the fall of Shurima, also prove to be his curse. One side effect of the ritual that disturbed Nasus was the increasing savagery he saw in his brother. The culmination of the siege of Nashrema, which finally brought that ancient city under Shuriman rule. Nasus witnessed the victorious Shuriman soldiers butchering everyone they came across and setting the city ablaze. Renekton led the massacre, and it was he who set fire to the great library of Nashrame, destroying countless irreplaceable volumes before Nasus was able to contain it. With the closest the brothers had ever come to bloodshed, standing in the center of the city, weapons drawn against each other. Under the stern, disappointed gaze of his brother, Renekton's bloodlust waned, and he finally turned away in shame. Over the following centuries, Nasus bent every effort into learning all that he could, scouring the desert for years in search of ancient artifacts and wisdom, eventually going on to discover the legendary Tomb of the Emperors hidden beneath the Shuriman capital. Nasus and Renekton had both been lured away from the ascension ritual of the Emperor's ear went terribly wrong, the young Emperor betrayed by his closest advisor, the Magius Zeroth. The brothers returned as fast as they could, but they were too late. Azir was dead, along with most of the capital's citizens. Filled with rage and grief, Nasus and Renekton battled the malevolent being of pure energy that Zeroth had become. Unable to kill Zeroth, they sought to bind him in a magical sarcophagus, but even that was not enough to hold him. Renekton, perhaps attempting to atone for Nashrame years earlier, grabbed Zeroth and bore him to the tomb of the Emperors, bidding Nasus to seal him in. Nasus refused, desperate to find another way, but there was no other option. With a heavy heart, he sealed Zeroth and his brothers within the fathomless darkness, locking them away for all eternity. The Shuriman Empire collapsed. Its great central city sank into ruin. The holy sun disk fell from the sky, drained of power by Zeroth's magic. Without it, the divine waters flowing from the city ran dry, bringing death and famine to Shurima. Bearing a heavy burden of guilt for having damned his brother to darkness, Nasus took to roaming the sands, accompanied only by the ghosts of the past and his grief. A melancholy figure, he stalked the now dead cities of Shurima, watching as they were slowly swallowed by the desert, lamenting the fallen empire and its lost people. He embraced isolation, a lean, solitary nomad who the occasional traveler claimed to glimpse before he disappeared into a sandstorm or an early morning haze. Few believed such stories, as Nasus became more than a legend. Centuries passed, and Nasus all but forgot his old life and former purpose, until the now buried tomb of the Empires was rediscovered, its seal broken, and in that moment he knew Zeroth was free. The ancient vigor stirred in his breast as Shurima rose from the sands. Nasus traversed the desert, angling towards the newly born city. Although he knew he had to battle Zeroth once more, hope stirred within him for the first time in millennia. Not only was this potentially the dawn of a new Shuriman Empire, but he also dared to believe it might also herald a long-awaited union with his beloved brother, Ouroboros. Nasus walked at night, unwilling to face the sun. The boy had followed in his wake. How long had he been there? Those mortals who caught a glimpse of the monstrous vagabond always ran, all save the boy. Together they wove a path through the bygone tapestry of Shurima. Self-imposed isolation chipped at Nasus's consciousness. The desert wind howled around their malnourished frames. "Nasus, look, above the dune sea," said the child. Stars guided the pair's sojourn across the desiccated expanse. The old jackal was no longer wore the armor of the Ascended. The gold monuments lay buried in the past. Now a hermit dressed in tattered fabric, Nasus scratched at his matted fur before slowly raising his head to observe the sky. "The piper," said Nasus, his voice low and graveled. "The season will change soon." Nasus put a hand on the boy's tiny shoulder and looked down into his sunburnt face. There he saw the soft lines and curves of Shuriman lineage, worn and ragged by travel. "When did it become your place to worry? Soon we will find you a home. Wandering between the ruins of the extinguished empire is no life for a child." This was the nature of the universe. Brief moments unfolded into the endless cycles of existence, and the heady philosophy weighed upon him. But it was more than just another stone in his endless tally of self-imposed guilt. In truth, the boy would inevitably be changed if he was allowed to follow. Remorse darkened Nasus's brow like a thunderhead. Their companionship stated something deep within the ancient hero. "Can we reach the astrologer's town before dawn? But we'll have to have a climb," said the boy. The tower was close. Nasus pulled himself up the cliff face, hand over hand. The climb memorized to such perfection that he took great libraries with each handful tempting death. The boy clambered up by his side, his agile form utilizing every nook and cranny offered by the blemished rock. What would happen to this innocent if I gave in to death? Thought the troubled Nasus. Wisps of fog rolled through the crags of the upper cliffs, each threading the narrow rocks like tiny mountain paths. The boy scurried over the top first. Nasus followed. In the distance, metal clanged against the shore. Voices could be heard through the haze. They spoke in a familiar dialect. Nasus was shaken from his reverie. The well at the astrologer's tower occasionally attracted nomads, but never this close to the equinox. The boy stood perfectly still, his fear palpable. "Where are the fires?" asked the boy. A horse's whinny pierced the night. "Who goes there?" asked the boy. The words rolled through the darkness. A lantern sparked into life, illuminating a band of raiders. The jackal's eyes snapped wide. He saw 7 of them. Their curved blades remained sheathed, but the look in their eyes spoke of martial training and gil. "Where's the caretaker?" asked Nasus. "He and his wife are asleep. The cool evening prompted them to retire early," said one of the riders. "Old Jekyll, my name is Maloff," said the other rider. "We have been sent by the Emperor." Nasus stepped forward, betraying the briefest hint of anger. "Does he seek acknowledgment? Then let me give it. There is no emperor in this fallen age," said Nasus. The boy stepped forward defiantly. The dark messengers backed away from the lantern. Long shadows obscured defensive stances. "Deliver your message and leave," said the child. Maloff mounted and stepped forward, reaching a calloused hand into the folds of his shirt, and produced a dark amulet bound in thick black chain. The geometry of the metal sparked recollections of magic and destruction in Nasus's mind. Emperor Xeros sends his offerings. We are to be your servants. He welcomes you to his new capital at Nerimazeth. The mercenary's words fell on Nasus like a hammer on glass. The boy promptly knelt and snatched up the weighty rock. Die, cried the boy. Take him, said Mela. With a heave, the boy hurled the rock through the air in its perfect arc, threatening to shatter the mercenary bone on impact. Renekton, no! Roared Nasus. The raiders abandoned their half-hearted deception. Nasus knew that the caretaker and his wife were dead. Xeros' greeting would come in the form of cold steel. Truth began to eclipse illusion. Nasus reached for the boy. The child tore into the shadows of memory that dissipated across the starlit ground. Goodbye, brother, whispered Nasus. Xeros' emissaries fanned out, their horses bucking and snorting. The Ascendant was flanked on all three sides. Malaf did not hesitate, drawing his blade and piercing Nasus' side with it. Pain rippled through the ancient curator's body. The rider attempted to withdraw his weapon, but it wouldn't budge. A clawed hand gripped the blade, keeping it agonizingly buried within the Ascendant's flesh. You should have left me to my ghost, said Nasus. Nasus tore Malaf's sword from his hand, shattering fingers and tearing ligaments. The demigod pounced on his attacker. Malaf's body cracked under the Jekyl's enormous weight. Nasus leapt from the next rider, pulling him from his saddle. Two strikes ruptured organs and stole wind from his lungs. His broken form spun off into the sand, a ruined mass of agony. His horse reared and fled into the desert. He's mad, said one of the riders. Not any longer, said Nasus, approaching the mercenary leader. A strange fragrance filled the air. Dead flowers, spinning on lavender-colored threads, followed his wake. Malaf twisted on the ground, broken fingers of his right hand withered, skin sagging like wet parchment. The barrel of his chest caved in on itself like a rotting spine fruit. White-knuckled panic overtook the remaining mercenaries. They struggled to keep their mounts under control, if only to retreat. Malaf's body lay abandoned in the sands. Nasus turned east towards the ruins of Nerimazeth. Tell your emperor his cycle nears its end. So that's the end of Nasus's expanded lore. I will be going on to Renekton after that, so you'll see that shortly after this one. And I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you liked it, leave a like and a subscribe, or leave a comment. And if there's anybody specific that you want to see done, you can leave that in the comments as well, and I will see what I can find for their lore. Some are a lot shorter than others, so they might be very, very short videos, like a couple minutes long. So I'm mostly working on the ones that have longer ones right now, because they're more in-depth and involved and kind of have more crisscrossing across each other. So they're more interwoven right now. And so that's all I have for right now. I will go and start on Renekton, and I hope that everybody has a nice day.